Welcome back to another episode of the Panther Pod. Today we are joined by Will Chase, a documentary senior here at Chapman University, who's currently working on his thesis, which is on a very interesting topic. Will, would you tell us a little bit about Voices from the Forest?
Yeah, so my documentary thesis is covering the defunding of the Forest Service and public lands in Central California over the last year. In February of 2025, Elon Musk, who is a part of the DOGE department of the government, slashed funding to the national parks, the Forest Service, and the Bureau of Land Management, which ended up causing a firing of 1,000 national park workers, 3,400 Forest Service workers, and 1,000 Bureau of Land Management workers, which has caused a lot of stress to just the general Park Service and has caused a lot of different minor effects to the land just because it's not being managed properly.
For sure. And before we dive in anymore, would you explain to us a little bit about the difference between the Forest Service, the National Park Service, and I guess what the implications are for slashing these fundings?
Yeah, so the National Park Service are a government-funded agency that provides access to unique landscapes in America. I mean, you have Yellowstone, you have Yosemite, and these are just kind of gated off areas of land that are for public use and a lot of tourism. The Forest Service covers a lot more land than the National Park Service. A lot of our just national forests are managed by government agencies. And then the Bureau of Land Management covers public lands, which are not necessarily forests, but are just places in the United States that aren't privately owned and can be used for a multitude of reasons, whether it be just getting resources from the land, mining, water usage, etc.
And your documentary, you chose to focus on Inyo State Forest, right?
Yes.
Or is it a national forest?
It is a state forest.
Perfect. So would you tell us why you made the choice to focus on Inyo as the main subject of your documentary?
Yeah. So I went up to Inyo around 2 years ago and just thought it was a beautiful area of California. And I also love the fact that it's not a very popular area. There's not a lot of tourism up there. And so there's not a lot of people, specifically Forest Service, managing the land just because they don't need to have as many numbers as national parks. But they still do need a lot of resources, especially because California just has such a big population that you just have so many different recreational users come throughout the area, climbing, hiking, fishing, etc.
Totally. And when you started your documentary, would you tell us about the first people you met, the main subjects of our documentary?
Yeah. So we got a connection to a nonprofit organization called the Friends of the Inyo, which are basically volunteer park rangers, or they call themselves trail ambassadors. And what these people's jobs are is to help the Forest Service manage the land, because they have been struggling for the past couple of years. They've been struggling even before COVID, as far as just managing the land properly.
So why does the Friends of Inyo exist? Is there a lack of work within the Forest Service? Is there a lack of budget? Why do we need Friends of Inyo in the first place?
So there is a lack of funding and a lack of people. And there is also just the struggle with the federal bureaucracy, because in order for things to get done, let's say a bridge falls in one of the different forests that need to be repaired because it needs to be an access spot, It takes a really long time for all the paperwork to go through in order to build the bridge. If it goes through like the Forest Service. And so what the Friends of Inyo does is they help out with making this bureaucratic process faster.
Yeah.
And then they also help out just with like hands-on building, and they help with a lot of like recreation stuff, just talking to people who are like multi-day hikers, people hiking on the PCT, checking in with them, making sure they're good, just because hikes like the PCT are extremely popular, and there does need to be people out there just in the middle of the wilderness to help in case one of these hikers gets hurt. Right. Or if anything were to happen. It's just nice to have federal workers that are there that are meant to protect the people on the land.
And how have the Friends of Inyo, how have their responsibilities shifted since the budget cuts with Doge?
It's been a lot harder for the Friends of Inyo and the Forest Service to manage the land properly, just because of their low numbers, because so many people were fired. And also this year, a lot of the Forest Service workers were put on furlough.
What do you explain what that is?
It just means they are let go temporarily and don't get paid, but being furloughed just means like you will have your job sometime in the future. They just don't know when. It happened because of the government shutdown.
Well, the next thing I want to talk to you about is, will you tell me about the characters that you're actually following in the documentary? I know Gene's a prominent character. You've talked to a lot of Friends of Inyo about their personal experiences as the government shutdown is going on and what they're doing and how their lives have changed. Will you tell me a little bit about those characters?
Yes. So the main subject of my documentary is a woman named Gene, who is a volunteer park ranger or trail ambassador, and she has been working with the Forest Service and has done work in the national parks for 40 years.
Damn.
She spent most of her life up in Yosemite and has just continued to help manage the land throughout her whole life. And so the documentary kind of follows her story and how she's processing the effects of the defunding. And how just the institutional knowledge of Forestry Service work is being reduced because of the number of firings. When you fire that many people, the rehiring process becomes extremely difficult because you don't have people to train the new hires.
Right.
You just basically have a bunch of people that don't know what to do.
You lose a lot of institutional knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's kind of what my documentary is trying to convey to the audience.
For sure. And beyond that, what would you say the consequences are for these national forests when you lose the people working the trails? What happens?
So without the proper funding and the proper amount of people managing the land, you have a surplus of trash that just doesn't get picked up, which can get eaten by bears and other wilderness, which just overall isn't good for the environment. Fires are another that is extremely important. Being in California and being in a state that is so prone to wildfires, not having the amount of people necessary to treat these fires is detrimental just to the land.
Totally.
And the people there.
That makes complete sense. And on top of that, I remember one of the park rangers who chose to be anonymous. He worked at a popular bouldering area. And would you talk to me a little bit about the problems with if you lose rangers in that sort of area too?
Yeah. So California is a really popular place for climbers just because of the geological structures. And so you have a surplus of bouldering or just climbers who go on Forest Service or BLM land to climb. But with that comes a lot of things that land management agencies need to take care of because of the climbers, whether it be trash or just general safety of these climbers. There are so many instances of climbers in California just falling and not making it because they just don't have the necessary vehicles or just necessary equipment to make it to like an emergency room on time. And so because of the defunding and not having these federal agents out there, it makes it less safe for just anybody in general going out there to climb. Recreational sports should be enjoyed and people should have the freedom to do it. But I do think it is the government who should be responsible to make sure everything's safe.
Totally. Well, what is the message of your documentary? What's the call to action that you're asking viewers and people who see this? What do you want them to do?
So the call to action of my documentary is to create more awareness of the issue and also just kind of put out that we can write to our congressman about these issues. I think it's really, really important to exercise our rights to create new legislation so that these lands can be managed properly and so that the ecosystems can thrive and people are safe recreating in the wilderness, because I feel like that is extremely important to just overall like the sustainability of our country and the future of it.
Totally. And I know that there was a recent update since you finished filming with your documentary. Was it the case that people got rehired and there's now new funding towards the budgets, or?
Yes. So after I finished filming my documentary, Doge, the administration, got completely like cut off, just taken off the face of the planet. Elon Musk is no longer working for the government. And because of that, the Forest Service now has the freedom to rehire all of the people that were fired last year. So they have 2,000 job openings for the Forest Service. That does not mean that 2,000 workers are now back in doing their jobs. That just means that they have the Forest Service wants to rehire 2,000 out of the 3,400 Forest Service workers that were managing the land nationally.
Totally.
And so that is a good start. It's progress, but we still have ways to go in order for us to have the right amount of number people to manage the land.
For sure. Well, I've asked you a lot about this documentary, but now I'm really curious to hear about zooming out about your body of work and the type of filmmaker you want to be. I'd love to hear about how this ties in and what your general passion is for documentary filmmaking.
Yeah. So I have been a wilderness person all my life. I grew up hiking with my family, and nature has just been such an impactful thing just in my life and for my happiness. And I care about these lands, and I care about the future and the management. And so when I heard about this story over a year ago, I just thought it would be a perfect alignment with who I am and what I wanted my documentary thesis to be.
For sure.
Because I just thought it was a really important issue that I wanted people to be more aware of. As far as what type of filmmaker I want to be, I originally wanted to go into the documentary business, filming just wildlife and animals. The more I did that, the more I realized that I actually enjoy filming people and people's lives a lot more, because I just think it makes more of a difference.
Yeah.
I've just always been so interested in just the different ways a person can live, and that's just taken me into this career that I love.
Would you tell me any funny anecdotes about other projects you've been on? What's the craziest person you've met? Or maybe craziest isn't the right word, but who is the most fascinating person that you've met in your time as a documentary filmmaker?
I don't know if I've met any super crazy people at Chapman and like doing documentaries here, but I will say when I was in high school during COVID, I used to make these little short documentaries, or just really just like clips of streetcar racing in Florida. And one of the guys that started inviting me to these meets, he ended up in jail a couple months after I got into filming it, for, I think, he went to jail for, I don't know why he went to jail. I think it was something to do with like guns, having unregistered arms.
That's crazy.
But it was kind of funny because it was like the first real project that I felt like meant more. It was more than a YouTube video to me.
Yeah.
Just because I was filming every single week, and I was meeting all these different people and becoming part of a community that I wasn't before.
Right. You get invested in their lives.
Yeah, I got invested in all these little car guys' lives. I was just really interested in the culture and why they just decide to spend their whole life savings on a new transmission. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just got enthralled with that whole culture. But yeah, I was cut off kind of quickly after the main guy that I was hanging out with went to jail.
Yeah, I figure. So, would you tell me a little bit about how documentary filmmaking, if you just want to speak on how documentary filmmaking allows you to get a glimpse on so many different people's lives, and just tell me your perspective on that, how it's really allowed you to peek into all these different worlds.
Yeah, I mean, I love documentary filmmaking as a medium just because it really digs a lot deeper into a subject than journalism.
Yeah.
You get to connect with these characters in a way that you would connect with characters in a narrative. But documentary is always trying to convey like a real message with real people, and that's kind of what I like about it, is the fact that it doesn't feel like a dream, which I feel like a lot of narrative films feel like. Documentary is just trying your best to combine ethnography and art. I feel like an ethnographer's job is to kind of capture a culture. I think a documentarian's is similar to that, but the artistry comes in the documentarian's own personal experience and what the documentarian values. I think it's very expressive, and that's kind of why I enjoy it so much.
Sweet. So I just have one last question for you, and clearly you're very passionate about this, and I'm just curious, as a senior right now, what do you want to do when you graduate?
When I graduate, I want to continue documentary work. I want to explore a lot more cultures, specifically in the United States, because I think the United States has such a diverse population that there are so many stories that need to be told.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many voices in this country that are silenced.
Right.
And I want to make it my job to have give those silenced voices a platform to tell their stories.
And that ties in with your current documentary.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Will Chase.
Thank you.
Great job, bro.